What's up, dads? This session's about to kick your butts, and mine too. I say that for a few reasons. This session is the one that has the real propensity of not only bringing up some great memories, but also some painful memories as well from your past. And honestly, it also may reveal some difficult issues that you may be having right now in your relationship with your own children. Many fathers are carrying around not only some wounds from their relationship with their own parents, but also fears and concerns that they're not exactly getting this fatherhood thing right. In fact, studies show that around 75% of men feel like they're failing in at least one area as a father. That's 3 out of every 4 men. The bottom line is that most men truly love their children, but simply feel that they have not been equipped to be the type of father they really want to be. But that is exactly why Operation M46 is here. Operation M46 exists to inspire and equip fathers to fight for the hearts of their children. So on that note, let's get started in today's session. Before I introduce our 4 rhinos chart to you, I want to ask you to consider a few questions about your relationship growing up with your father. Whether you realize it or not, most children get their first picture of God from our earthly father. Our relationships with our fathers, whether good or bad, not only affects our view of God, but many times dramatically affects the way we parent our own children. It impacts the way we parent because we can only give what we have, and we generally only have what we've been given by our parents. I want to ask you to please take a moment and honestly consider a couple of questions. First, how would you describe your father? And also, how would you describe your relationship with your father? As we go through today's session, I want you to keep those answers in mind and then later on reflect back on how similar or how different your relationship is with your children. You may be surprised what the Lord will reveal to you. Today we're going to use a powerful tool that allows you to determine where you fall among the 4 different types of fathers. It's a chart that reveals 4 distinct parenting styles. Please keep in mind that we are going to be speaking in very general terms, but I want to ask you to be extremely open and honest with yourself as to exactly where you think you land on this chart. Let's take a look at it right now. As you can see, this chart is broken into 4 quadrants based off of 2 components that you have and show towards your children as a parent: love and discipline and instruction. The vertical line represents love. The line goes from high love to low love. At the top of high love would certainly be that covenant love that Tim described in the earlier sessions. A high love, a covenant love, is one that is always there, no matter what. Low love, down at the bottom, would move from apathy even toward neglect or even abandonment. The horizontal line represents the level of discipline instruction. It also ranges from all the way from the right, high discipline instruction, where a parent is crystal clear on what is right, wrong, and how to live, to all the way to the left, low discipline, low instruction, where there's simply no direction provided whatsoever. While this is certainly not a perfect tool, and I bet you're already thinking that you could be at different points on those lines at different times in different situations, and that's right. Using these 2 components, love and discipline/instruction, we can get a fairly good idea of our parenting style. Let's take a look. The top left quadrant reflects a father who displays high amounts of love but low amounts of discipline. This is the permissive parent that we refer to as best buddy. This is the father who absolutely shows love to his child but does not use their influence and authority to provide sufficient guidance or instruction. We've all known people who have been spoiled their whole childhood lives. The effect on a child can possibly range anywhere from a child who simply lacks self-discipline to someone who may think the world revolves around him or her, his needs, his wants, his desires. The bottom left quadrant reflects a father who displays low amount of love and low amount of discipline instruction. In reality, this is simply a neglectful parent. We call this the AWOL father. This is the father that has either completely abandoned the child altogether and is physically never present, or is the father that is still physically present but is emotionally invisible. The father may even live in the same house, but the child does not feel the father in any way, shape, or form. I've met many men who've grown up in both of these situations. The effect on the child can range anywhere from a total disregard, disrespect for authority in general, to a child who is overly passive, fearful, and completely unsure of himself or herself. The bottom right quadrant reflects a father who displays high amount of discipline and instruction, but very low amounts of love. This is who we refer to as the drill sergeant father. The drill sergeant is generally driven by rules, regulations, and instruction. It's about pure obedience, because I said so. While this father clearly states the difference in right and wrong, there is very little love, if any, ever communicated. Therefore, there is very little joy to be found in this relationship between the father and his child. Generally, there's no question who's in charge in this relationship, but it's filled with fear and control. The top right quadrant reflects a father who displays high amount of discipline and instruction and also high amounts of love. This is our Operation M46 dad. This is the father who clearly teaches his child right from wrong, but does so in a loving relationship with his child. This father is not perfect and still makes plenty of mistakes, but his child doesn't question the love his or her father has for him in the process. Okay, having explained the chart, here's a few specific questions for you. First question, where would you place yourself on the chart in regards to love? How about discipline instruction? Honestly, this is a bit of a trick question because the truth is, it doesn't really matter where you place yourself. It really only matters where your child perceives you to be. Let me explain to you what I mean by giving you an example of how there can be a difference in perception. My children once attended a school that required them to wear a particular shoe that cost $70. Now listen, in my house, no one gets a shoe that costs more than $40. So when I bought a $70 pair of shoes for my kindergartner, you better believe that I knew 100% that I loved that kid. But guess what? My kindergartner didn't know that I loved him because I bought him a $70 pair of shoes. In fact, if you gave him a choice between $70 and bubble gum, he would have chose that stinking bubble gum 100 out of 100 times. What's my point? You have to ask yourself the hard question of where your children would place you on this chart in terms of love and discipline instruction. And if you really want to know the answer to that question, take this chart home and ask them. They'll tell you. Also remember, if you have more than one child, we need to do this with each one individually. Second question, which father type is statistically the most probable way to get a child to be rebellious? Surprising to many, it's the drill sergeant father. Why do you think that is? Well, have you ever worked for a boss that could care less for you? Did you love working for them? Did you ever have a class under a teacher who you knew did not care anything for you? Did it motivate you to love that class, or did you dread going there? Dads, the drill sergeant model may work for a number of years while the children are young, but it's a ticking time bomb of a relationship. Many times, as soon as the child is old enough, the rebellion will begin. The tough thing for the drill sergeant father is they think everything is under control until boom, one day it all blows up. As others have said so well, it's essential to know that rules without relationship lead to rebellion. Third question for you. Which father type are we most bent towards becoming? Well, that's a question that each man has to look at himself to answer. Some men may need their children to like them so much that they tend towards the best buddy. Some men have been so caught up in their work and even in their own issues that time passes by and they become AWOL father. That said, there is no question that many men are also prone to the drill sergeant dad. Many men work from 7A to 7P. They're tired and they're simply ready for peace and quiet at the end of the day when they come home. But this is when our kids are so excited to see their daddy. Dads, we must be extremely careful to make sure that at the end of the day when we're tired and we're simply barking out orders to everyone, get your homework done, get ready for bed, be quiet, I'm trying to watch TV. Dads, it's so easy to become the drill sergeant. We don't even realize that our coworkers get the best of us at the beginning of the day and our family gets the worst of us at the end of the day. Last question, how do I become an Operation M46 dad? Good question. And the first step is easy. Be intentional. And Operation M46 Father recognizes that he must be intentional in both spending time with his children and also instructing them. For most dads, because of our jobs, the time that we have available happens at the very end of the day. Becoming an Operation M46 dad can be as simple as beginning to see every evening with your children as sacred time. Dads, here's the bottom line. Be intentional. Push them on a swing, jump on the trampoline, shoot a couple of hoops, play a video game with them. It doesn't matter what it is, but join in on doing something that your child loves. As for the discipline instruction, why don't you simply start with having dinner at the table with no electronics, which will encourage real conversation. Talk and pray with your children as they go to bed each night, and intentionally schedule times and activities that you're going to focus 100% on your children, no emails or texts. The bottom line is this: the evening time for busy working dads is sacred, and we must be intentional in displaying our love for our children by spending time with our children. Dads, in 1 Corinthians 13, God defines love for us, and at the end of this chapter, he says that out of faith, hope, and love, the greatest of these is love. Our children must know that we love them, and there is nothing that they can say or do that will ever change that. Dads, simply reflect that beautiful covenant love to your children that Christ has already freely given to us. Deuteronomy 6 says, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength. These commandments I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road and when you lie down and when you get up." Dads, as much as our kids need our love, they also need our godly discipline, our vision, and our instruction. I heard it once described this way: our children are like a fast-flowing river. The discipline and instruction we provide gives them firm, high banks to keep them flowing in the right direction. If the banks get soft and washed out, the river floods in all directions and there's chaos. Dads, be intentional, just like Deuteronomy 6 says, as you sit at home, as you walk along the way, and as you go to bed at night. God bless you men, and God bless your families.